Hey everyone. So I know it's slightly early in the morning to be going live on Facebook, but if you've followed me for any length of time or if you're on my newsletter, then you know that there's probably a few times during the day when my house is this quiet. So Mr. Ballinger is off taking my oldest to preschool, and he's got the baby with him. So the house is totally quiet for once. So I thought this would be the perfect time for me to come on and say hi to you all, because as you know, exciting stuff today is the release of Wicked Cowboy Wolf. Yay! Book 3 in the Seven Range Shifter series. I know many of you have been really excited, waiting for this book to come out. I have been too. I'm so excited. I can't believe it's finally here. It's probably my personal favorite in the series so far. It's enemies to lovers, mistaken identity, all sorts of wonderful, delicious stuff in Rogue and Maeve's book. So I can't wait for you all to read it. And as if that was not exciting enough, if you have not read the earlier books in the series, Cowboy and Wolf's Clothing is the Kindle Daily deal today. So it is on sale for only 99 cents, a super duper steal price. So if you have not grabbed your copy from on ebook, then this is the time to grab it. So, and I will make sure to put links for both of those things in the comments. And of course, there's plenty of giveaways going on throughout the day, stuff going on my newsletter, so I will make sure to include links to all of those. Now, when I held up Wicked Cowboy Wolf, you might have seen, right, I've got all these little sticky notes in here. So that's actually for a few different reasons, because in the next few days, on February 1st, is going to be the first stop on the Who Do You Love tour. So it's this tour I'm doing here throughout Florida with Mara Wells, who is a contemporary romance author. She wrote an adorable rom-com called Cold Nose, Warm Heart, which also comes out today. So you should grab your copy. And also with Stacey Ramey, who writes contemporary young adult romance. Her book, It's My Life, just came out earlier this month. So if you have not checked them out, please do. And we're going to be doing a Florida-wide book tour, and I'm going to be reading excerpts of Wicked Cowboy Wolf at some of the stops that we're doing. I'll put a link to the tour dates in the comments, because I'm hoping some of you will be Florida locals and be able to come out and join us and maybe grab a signed copy, hear us read, enter some giveaways, right? But because I know many of you are not Florida based, I thought I would go ahead and kick off release day by reading just a quick excerpt of a few parts that I enjoy in Wicked Cowboy Wolf. So the plan, right, is that I have a couple selections. So anybody who's on, I see a couple of you. Hi, Robin. Hi, Erica. Hi, Heather. So I see a couple of you on the feed. So you're in luck. You get to choose which excerpt I read. So the choices are, we get page 1, right? Very interesting. Meet Cute, right? Which is when Rogue and Maeve finally meet on the page in Wicked Cowboy Wolf. If you've been following the series, you know that they actually initially meet in book 2, Cowboy and Wolf's Clothing. Again, on sale, 99 cents, such a good deal. So there's the Meet Cute. There is my personal favorite excerpt. It was really hard to pick one, but I just kind of scanned and pointed, to be honest. And then also the what I think is one of the funniest scenes in the book. So do we have any votes in the comments? I'm going to look over to the comments, see if anybody has any guesses. What would you guys like to see? I see some comments here saying hello. Mine was shipped on the way. Yay, I hope you get it soon. Lots of little celebratory stuff, but looking like maybe not anyone voting yet. That's okay. So I'll go ahead and just, the meat. Oh, okay, now we're getting comments. The meat cute, okay. So I will go ahead and turn to that and share. So I guess I kind of have to give a little bit of setup for this. It's funny, of course, that you guys chose this one because it is the only excerpt, right, that is sort of above PG-13 that I had chosen. So, but knowing my readers, right, you guys are really excited that I'm telling you that you chose the naughty excerpt. So, just to give a brief setup, right, we know that Rogue and Maeve had met in Cowboy Wolf's clothing. He is locked in a vampire cell next to Maeve and Belle, who are members of the Grey Wolf pack. They don't know who he is. He entices them to help let him out of the cell and sort of get them out of the vampire's clutches. And they do, and it's only once they've done that, right, that they realize that he is actually a criminal wolf by the name of the Rogue, right? He's an enemy of their pack. And so at the beginning of this book, we find Maeve, and she's trying to find some allies to help the Grey Wolves escape a plot that the vampires have going on that could potentially be very bad for the pack. And he's shown up very briefly before they actually meet in this book. She sees him from across the room at a party that the Grey Wolves are hosting with some of their allies. And he's sort of lingering there, right? She doesn't know what he's there, but then he's gone. He disappears as soon as she kind of blinks. And so she's kind of questioning whether she's really seen him at all. So that's where we're at the start of this scene, and I will go ahead and read the excerpt. So, okay. The pink summer sunset had long since faded to nightfall by the time May returned to her cottage on the other side of the Grey Wolf compound. As she approached home, she cringed at the thought of the poor excuse she'd given Alexander. There was no way he'd bought her lie. Sure, she and Maverick had scheduled Alexander for a meeting with the Pact, but which was a small step forward, but if they didn't get him on board and fast, their prospects were limited. But May was determined. She would find a way to save her pack. She had to. Feeling more than a little defeated, she shuffled up to her door, scanning the other nearby pack cabins. Hers was one of many adjacent to the dining hall and the main compound building, which housed the elite warriors and the main pack offices. She grabbed her keys from her purse. As she did so, she glanced over her shoulder, as if she might find Rogue lingering there in the darkness. But she didn't. He'd disappeared without a trace. She released a long sigh. From what she knew of his dangerous reputation, it was just like the arrogant bastard to trot right into a pack of alphas that would just as soon see him torn apart. He really was a rogue with a devil-may-care attitude to match his title. She gripped her keys tighter in her hand. After unlocking her front door, she slipped inside. Immediately, the sound of tiny hooves clopping against tile sounded from the darkness. She flicked on the dim entryway light. Tucker, her teacup pig, stared up at her from the white-tiled floor, his beady black eyes sparkling with pleasure at her arrival. He let out a pleased oink. May grinned. Bending down, she scooped him into her arms, coddling him like a baby as she cooed at him. Still a piglet, Tucker was no bigger than a small dog, and according to the breeder, he'd been the runt of the teacup litter and would likely stay small. With Tucker cradled against her, May made quick work of feeding him a bottle of milk replacer before snuggling him into his fluffy pink dog bed in her living room. Once the piglet was rocked to sleep, she showered before she changed into her nightgown and settled into the comfort of her bed sheets. The day had left her worn out, but her mind refused to calm. Had she really seen the rogue, or had it all been in her head? That question still plagued her. She wasn't sure how he would have gotten onto the ranch without detection, especially considering the heightened security for the reception. She shook her head. It must have been her imagination, a memory triggered by the stress of Alexander's questions. The rogue couldn't possibly have shown up at Wolfpack Run only to disappear again, though it had felt so real. She sighed, sinking deeper into her mattress. It wouldn't be the first time she'd thought of him since their encounter in the vampire coven. Heat rose in her cheeks. She'd dreamed of him almost every night since, and not in the way she should have. The memory of the night when her life had been threatened by bloodsuckers was a dark one, but when she dreamed of that night, of him, her dream often took a completely different course from reality. Instead of dreaming of the danger she'd faced, she'd woken more than once to the thought of his uncharacteristic heroism as he whisked her from the vampire cells, only to find her own hand exploring between her legs. It was sick, she knew it. She shouldn't be attracted to a dangerous criminal like him. Despite that, he stirred something primitive inside her. She knew what sort of dark circles he traveled in, yet she couldn't seem to help it. A wolf like the rogue was everything that was forbidden to her, a non-gray wolf, a vigilante, not to mention one of her brother's enemies, and the antithesis of every criterion she should consider for a mate. Somehow, that only made him more appealing. By her birthright, she was destined for a gray wolf alpha warrior. She shuddered at the thought. The gray wolf warriors were all fine men, handsome cowboys, but they were practically her brothers. May tossed and turned in her bed as she tried to put the rogue from her mind, but still his face taunted her. Eventually, her hand trailed beneath her nightgown. Maybe if she eased this ache, the desire would go away. Maybe then sleep would claim her. Slowly, her fingers probed the folds between her legs, locating her own clit. She knew her body, what she liked. Gently, she massaged and probed as she remembered how it had felt when the warmth of his breath had brushed against her ear, the deep timbre of his voice thrumming through her. "You won't regret this," he'd whispered. She imagined his lips trailing downward. What would it be like to be with a criminal like him? Something told her every touch, every caress would be more powerful, more sinful, just more. Soon, she was moaning in climax, the walls of her core tightening in a delicious wave that sent a rush of moisture straight to her center. She cried out, arching her back against the pillows. As the last throes of her orgasm shook her, she relaxed into her sheets, sated, though it was little more than a fantasy. At that thought, a pang of sorrow thrummed through her. That was all her dreams would ever be, fantasy. Not just him, but all her heart's desires. She wanted more than she could have. She always had. She loved her pack, but the duties that bound her to them had never been her choice. She may have been born a gray at birth, but if she were braver, she'd live her own life. She'd make her own choices if she were free. May lay there, the weight of the things she'd never have pressing down on her, constraining her chest so much that she struggled to breathe. If only, at least she could dream. Her dreams and desires were hers alone. She released a long sigh, switching on the light of her bedside table as she reached for a book to read, until the sound of a familiar voice came from the darkness. "Evening, princess." And yes, he was there the whole time. So I'm hoping you guys think that's pretty fun, right? That the hero shows up in her room after she's just kind of been thinking about him, sets the stage for a very hot and sexy read. So I hope you are really excited about Wicked Cowboy Wolf. And if you have not grabbed your copy, that you will consider grabbing one today. And again, book 2 in the series also on sale on Kindle for 99 cents. So thanks so much for joining me live today, guys. I will have more videos coming up with excerpts of Wicked Cowboy Wolf in the future. And if you're a Florida reader, please stop by one of our tour stops on the Who Do You Love tour. We would love to see you. So thanks so much for joining me. I'm excited to celebrate release day with you guys. So keep an eye out on my page for more stuff to come. And I will check y'all later. Bye.